My fiance's family said I wasn't wife material, but then I became their landlord and raised the rent. It started with a spilled coffee. Not mine, his. I was on my third double shift that week, running on burnt espresso and 5 hours of sleep, when this guy in a sharp navy coat walked into the cafe like he didn't quite belong. Everyone else came in mumbling, scrolling, ignoring. But not him. He walked straight up to the counter, looked me in the eye, and smiled. Large oat milk cappuccino, extra dry, 1 pump of hazelnut, 1 pump of caramel, double shot. Extra hot, he said like it was the most normal order in the world. I raised an eyebrow. Anything else? Maybe a unicorn horn or a dash of fairy dust? He laughed, that low, effortless kind of laugh that made the room feel warmer. Sorry. I'm annoying, I know. I just moved into the apartment above the bookstore. I'm still learning which cafes survive my coffee expectations. I made the drink wrong. Twice. The foam wasn't foamy enough. The second one was too sweet. But he didn't complain, just smiled and said, I think you're the only person in this city who's honest. I told him my name was Kate. He came back the next day, and the day after that. Same order. Same ridiculous smile. Eventually, he asked for my number. I said no 3 times, to be exact. But on the 4th try, he brought a bouquet of hand-picked wildflowers and a note. I promise I'm not as complicated as my coffee. I gave in. His name was Daniel, and he wasn't like anyone I had ever known. I grew up the daughter of 2 hardworking, exhausted parents in rural Ohio. My dad fixed cars. My mom ran a tiny convenience store. College wasn't a birthright in my world. It was a miracle. I'd gotten through business school on scholarships, night jobs, and caffeine. After graduation, I didn't have a safety net, just rent to pay and dreams that didn't fit inside my wallet. Daniel was different. He grew up in Boston's old money circle. You know the type, generations of wealth, summer homes in Martha's Vineyard, trust funds they didn't talk about but always had. His family owned properties, investments, even a private vineyard. But he never led with that. He wore sweaters instead of suits, rode the subway. He liked dive bars more than country clubs. He told me he wanted to earn his own path, and maybe he did. At first, we were just opposites who clicked. He was relaxed, I was intense. He slowed me down, I kept him grounded. Our first kiss was on a park bench at 2 a.m. in the middle of a snowstorm, and I swear, in that moment, I thought, this is what love feels like. But love gets complicated when you realize you don't just marry a person. You marry their world. Daniel's family didn't welcome me. Not even close. The first time I met them was at their estate in Cape Cod. Calling it a house felt like an insult to architecture. There were chandeliers in the bathrooms. When we pulled up, I was in a Target sundress and flats. Daniel's mother, Celeste, opened the door in pearls and Louboutin heels for brunch. She looked me up and down once and smiled like I was a charity case. Darling, she said to Daniel, why didn't you tell me she was so earthy? I smiled and introduced myself anyway. She barely shook my hand. His father, Gregory, asked me about my family name. I told him we didn't really have one. My mom was a McCall before marriage. That didn't mean anything to him. Ah, he said with a tight nod. Working class. Got it. They spent the entire meal talking about private schools, ski lodges, and European real estate. I tried to chime in about my student loans, about the nonprofit I'd started in college to help low-income women with business training, but they changed the subject every time. I wasn't from their world, and I didn't speak their language. But Daniel, he kept holding my hand under the table, rubbing his thumb over my skin like a promise. Don't let them scare you, he whispered. I love you. That night, I cried into his chest. I told him I felt like I didn't belong, that maybe I wasn't good enough. He held me tighter and said, you're more than enough. I want you, not their approval. I believed him. For 2 years, we built a life together. We moved into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment I found through a friend. He said he wanted to pay his own way, but I quickly realized my paychecks were covering the bulk of the bills. Daniel was always figuring things out. He worked on consulting projects and startup ideas that never seemed to make money. I didn't mind, at least not at first. I believed in him, and I was used to carrying weight. But it wore on me. Some nights I'd come home with aching feet and a head full of numbers from my side job bookkeeping for a flower shop, only to find Daniel playing video games or sketching designs for a fantasy app he never coded. I started to feel like I was pouring into something that didn't have a bottom. And then he proposed. He did it right there in the cafe where we met, with candles, music, flowers, and a ring so beautiful it made me cry. He got down on one knee and asked, "Will you marry me?" I said yes without thinking. In that moment, everything else faded. But the world doesn't stay still for long. The moment we told his family, everything changed. Celeste blinked twice, like she hadn't heard him right. Then she sipped her wine and said flatly, "That's sudden." Gregory didn't say anything at all. He just stared at Daniel like he declared bankruptcy instead of getting engaged. Later that night, I heard Celeste in the hallway. I wasn't supposed to. She didn't know I was there. "She's sweet," she said to Gregory. "But let's be honest. She's not wife material." Gregory snorted. "Not even investment material, no pedigree, no refinement, no assets." I stood frozen in the hallway, fingers gripping the railing, heart pounding in my chest. Wife material. What did that even mean? Was I supposed to come from a country club? Speak fluent French? Pretend I didn't care about money while secretly bathing in it? I told Daniel what I heard. He frowned. "They're just being protective. They don't mean it." "Yes, they do," I snapped. "They don't think I'm good enough for you." "That's not true." "Then why didn't you defend me?" He looked away. That silence said everything. I tried to plan the wedding, tried to keep things normal, but their insults grew colder, sharper. His aunt sent me a list of modest venue suggestions and offered to pay for a stylist. Celeste asked if I'd consider delaying the wedding to build confidence. Gregory sent a prenup draft that made it clear they assumed I was the gold digger. And Daniel? He just smiled and said, "They're trying." The final blow came during our engagement dinner, held in their Manor's formal dining room, the kind with 20 chairs and 3 courses I couldn't pronounce. Celeste raised her glass for a toast. "To Daniel," she said, "and to the hope that love conquers all, even difference in backgrounds." The table laughed. At me. I felt like I was drowning in fine crystal and fake smiles. That night, I packed a bag and left. Daniel begged me to stay. I told him I needed space. I didn't want to admit it, but part of me knew the truth. Love alone wasn't going to fix this. I was never going to be enough for them. But I wasn't done. Not even close. They said I wasn't wife material, but the real betrayal wasn't just from them. It was from him. After I left Daniel's parents' house that night, I checked into a motel using the emergency credit card I kept tucked in my wallet for moments like this, moments I never thought would happen. The motel was tiny, the walls paper thin, and the Wi-Fi barely worked. But it was quiet. No backhanded compliments. No cold eyes. No silverware clinking over tension. Daniel called 6 times that night, left voicemails, texted, "Please come back." They didn't mean it. "We'll figure it out." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not until I knew what he meant. Not until I knew he was really on my side. The next morning, I texted him, "We need to talk. Away from your family." He met me at our apartment. I'd expected anger or panic, but Daniel was calm. Too calm. That softness that once felt romantic now felt rehearsed. "I get it," he said. "They were awful. But you can't let them win, Kate. That's what they want." "Are you hearing yourself?" I snapped. "They humiliated me in front of 30 people. Your aunt literally asked if I knew which fork was for the salad." "They don't mean it like that." "Stop defending them," I cried. "You keep telling me you love me, that we're partners, but when they tear me down, you just watch. You don't defend me. You don't set boundaries. You just let them." He looked at me like I was being unreasonable. Like I was the problem. And then, with a sigh that chilled me more than anything, he said, "They're not going to change. So maybe we just keep the peace. You don't need to be close with them. You just need to learn how to navigate it." There it was. The subtle shift from us to you. He wasn't in this fight with me. He was hoping I'd give in. A week passed. Then two. I moved back into the apartment, but things were different. The wedding planning stalled. He started staying out later. Said he was working on something big with his friend Mason. Mason was a trust fund baby who wore sunglasses indoors and called women chicks. He also happened to be Celeste's godson. One day, Daniel came home with a brochure for a villa in Tuscany. "Let's get married here," he said. I blinked. "We can't afford that. It's not about money. My parents offered to pay as a peace offering." My stomach turned. "So after everything they've said about me, you want me to accept their money and let them control the one thing that's supposed to be ours?" He shrugged. "It's just a venue. Don't be dramatic." I turned away from him and stared out the window, fists clenched. He didn't understand. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. 3 days later, I came home early from work and found him in the living room, on speakerphone with Celeste. He didn't hear me come in. "She's emotional," he was saying. "I'm trying to be patient, but I don't know how much longer I can do this. She makes everything a battle." Celeste's voice crackled through. "Sweetheart, we raised you for more. You deserve someone who supports your future, not drags you down into hers." "I know," he murmured. I dropped my keys. Loudly. Daniel jumped and turned. His face went white. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed my coat, my laptop, and left. I stayed with my friend Amanda that night. The same Amanda who once told me Daniel gave her the creeps when he smiled too much. I didn't listen then. I wish I had. Amanda poured me wine and didn't ask questions. Just let me cry, vent, spiral. I told her everything, about the insults, the silence, the way I'd bent myself in half trying to be enough. And she said something I'll never forget. "Kate, they don't think you're not wife material because of who you are. They think it because of what you don't have. Their name, their wealth, their circle. And you know what? That's not about you. That's about their insecurity." I went quiet. Because she was right. And I realized something else. I wasn't just mad at Daniel's family. I was mad at myself. For ignoring the red flags. For giving him excuses. For thinking love alone was enough. 2 days later, Daniel sent a text. "We need to talk." I agreed. I wanted closure. We met at a park bench, the same one where we first kissed in the snow. He looked different, cold, distant. "I've been thinking," he started. "And maybe we rushed into things. Maybe we're just not aligned anymore." I let him talk. I didn't say a word. I just watched him dismantle everything we'd built with the ease of someone tearing down a tent. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket. The ring. "I think you should have this back." I stared at it. He didn't even say sorry. Didn't even fight for us. Just gave up. I took the ring, stood up, and said, "You know what, Daniel? Maybe your family's right. I'm not wife material." His eyebrows twitched. "But not because I'm not good enough," I continued. "Because I finally realized I'm too much for you." And I walked away. That night, I pawned the ring. Not out of spite, but because I needed a down payment. Not for revenge. Not yet. But for something better. Freedom. He said I wasn't wife material. So I became something bigger. Something they'd never see coming. After Daniel handed me back the ring and walked away like I was nothing more than a temporary experiment in rebellion, I didn't cry. Not immediately. I walked home in a fog, heart hollowed out, but not broken, not yet. Grief didn't hit me like a wave. It seeped in like fog, curling around my lungs, making it hard to breathe when I least expected it. I'd be washing dishes and suddenly remember the way he used to hum while brushing his teeth. I'd pass the cafe where we met and feel a punch in my gut. For weeks, my apartment, the one I had paid for, smelled like him, and I hated myself for missing it. But more than the pain, there was rage. Quiet, simmering, focused. Daniel hadn't just walked away. He'd chosen them. Chosen their comfort, their money, their condescension over love, respect, and real partnership. I wasn't wife material because I didn't fit into their perfect country club fantasy. Fine. Then I'd build something better. Something untouchable. At first, it was survival. I sold the ring for just over $14,000. It was worth more, I'm sure of it, but I didn't care. That money was never mine in the first place. It was blood money from a family who thought they could buy class and character. I used the cash as seed money. For me, I quit the cafe. I picked up more bookkeeping clients, helped 3 small businesses restructure their cash flows, and started offering freelance financial coaching for women-owned startups. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week, no vacations, no distractions, just hustle. I started a consulting LLC under my own name. I built a website, recorded testimonials, and slowly gained traction. It was exhausting and liberating. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying someone else's dead weight. Within 18 months, I doubled my income, then tripled it. Amanda, the same friend who'd poured wine into my heartbreak, became my unofficial coup. She had a background in real estate law, and one day while reviewing some local zoning changes, she casually said, "There's a 4-unit building going up for auction next month. Cheap, bad shape, but the land is valuable. You interested?" I hadn't thought about property before, but something in my gut said yes. I bid. I won. It was a dump, leaky pipes, old wiring, a cracked foundation, but I saw potential. I poured everything I had into renovating it. My savings, my profits, my sleepless nights. 2 years after Daniel's rejection, I owned my first building. Then came the second. And then, the third. I started small, focused on undervalued properties in undesirable neighborhoods, the kind Daniel's family would scoff at, but those were the neighborhoods coming up, changing fast. By the time I hit 30, I was the sole owner of 6 buildings, managing dozens of tenants, and consulting for real estate investors twice my age. I was thriving. And I hadn't thought about Daniel in a long time. Until I saw the name. I was reviewing tenant applications for a newly acquired brownstone. I'd just closed on it a week before, a distressed sale from an over-leveraged landlord who defaulted on back taxes. I flipped to page 3. Unit 2B, under the name Gregory Ellis. My heart stopped. I blinked. Looked again. It wasn't just a Gregory Ellis. It was the Gregory Ellis, Daniel's father. The address matched the one Celeste had used on the engagement party invitation years ago. Confused, I dug into the records. The Ellis family had sold the building 10 years ago to a holding company, but kept renting back the top 2 floors. Probably for appearances. No one knew they were just tenants. Renters. Suddenly, everything clicked. They were still living there. In a building I now owned. Amanda walked into my office and saw the expression on my face. "Are you okay?" I handed her the file. She scanned it, her eyebrows flew up. "No way." I sat in stunned silence for a moment, then said slowly, "Don't raise the rent yet." "Not yet." She smirked. "You're planning something." I smiled. "I'm planning everything." Over the next 6 months, I made slow, silent changes. First, cosmetic upgrades to the other units, new appliances, better flooring, smart thermostats. Then, small but steady rent increases to bring the building up to market rate. Except for 2 units, 2A and 2B. Celeste and Gregory's units. I left them untouched. While the rest of the building rose in quality and price, their units stayed the same: old cabinets, drafty windows, outdated paint. They noticed. One day, I received a complaint email from c.ellis@ellisenterprises.com. "Dear landlord, we've noticed the other units have received modernizations while ours remain neglected. We expect equal treatment or a formal explanation." I waited a week. Then I replied, "Dear tenant, your current rent is 50% below market rate. You've received discounted rates for years while making no capital investment in the property. If you would like to discuss improvements, please be advised that your rent will be increasing accordingly." No signature. No name. Just facts. 2 days later, Celeste called the property management line personally. She didn't know who owned the building. She demanded to speak to the real landlord. Amanda took the call. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Ellis," she said sweetly. "The owner doesn't take direct calls from tenants. But she appreciates your concern." Celeste fumed. "She? Who is she?" Amanda smiled through the line. "Someone who knows exactly what wife material is worth. They called me a face. Said I wasn't wife material. So I became their landlord. And made them beg." By the time the official rent increase letters went out, I had prepared everything. Legal notifications. Updated lease terms. Market data to back it up. It was surgical, no room for challenge, no emotional mess, just facts, numbers, and cold professionalism. For units 2A and 2B, where Gregory and Celeste still lived, the rent increase was substantial. Still fair, but no longer a courtesy. Gone were the years of discounted rates and private favoritism. They'd be paying what the market demanded, no more, no less. But considering their pride, I knew it would sting more than eviction ever could. I timed the letters perfectly, 1 week before Christmas. Inside their luxurious, if outdated, 2-floor rental, probably still decorated in gold leaf mirrors and inherited china, they opened my letter and, I imagine, choked on their caviar. It didn't take long. The email came the next day. From Celeste Ellis. Subject: Urgent, rent increase. Dear Sir or Madam, there must be some mistake. We have been loyal tenants for over a decade and friends of the original owners. Surely this notice does not apply to us. Please contact me directly at your earliest convenience to resolve this issue. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I let Amanda forward it, with a note that the new lease terms were final. No exceptions. 3 days later, Gregory himself left a voicemail on the property management line. His voice was clipped, barely containing the rage. "This is Mr. Ellis. I expect a call back immediately. My wife and I are not tenants. We are pillars of this community. We do not respond to form letters. Whoever owns this building clearly doesn't understand who we are." Oh, I did. And the irony? They still had no idea who I was. It wasn't until a week later that I showed my hand, carefully, dramatically, and on my terms. The Ellis family had requested a meeting to negotiate. I accepted, but insisted it be at the building itself, in the empty unit on the first floor. A unit I had renovated personally. Sleek black fixtures, exposed brick, modern elegance. Amanda and I set the room like a scene. Leather chairs, water glasses, a neat folder of lease documents between us. At 3 p.m. sharp, the elevator opened, and in swept Gregory and Celeste. She was in a beige cashmere coat and oversized sunglasses. He wore a navy suit, far too formal for the occasion. They didn't glance at Amanda. They didn't say hello. Celeste sat, crossed her legs, and smiled the same brittle smile she gave me when we first met. "I assume you're the assistant," she said to Amanda. "Can you please tell the landlord we're ready?" I stepped forward. Amanda didn't say a word. She just leaned back and smiled. "I'm already here," I said. Celeste blinked. Gregory turned slowly. His eyes narrowed. "Kate?" Celeste said. I smiled. Calm, cool, corporate. No longer Kate, the barista. Or Kate, the girl your son dated. I go by Catherine now. Owner. CO, landlord. Silence. Delicious silence. Celeste's mouth opened, closed, opened again. This must be a mistake. Oh, it's not. I purchased this building 9 months ago. You've been my tenants ever since. Gregory scoffed. Impossible. That property belonged to the Whitmore Group. They went bankrupt, I replied. Tax fraud, actually. I bought this through one of my holding companies at auction. For a very good price, I might add. Celeste clutched her bag. So this is revenge? You're raising our rent to punish us? I tilted my head. Oh no, I'm raising your rent because the market supports it. It's what I do. I manage properties. Fairly, professionally, coldly. Gregory's voice turned sharp. You think this makes you powerful? I met his eyes. No, this makes me untouchable. He stood. We'll move. We don't need to live here. There are other properties. Nicer ones. I leaned in. Then why haven't you? Why did you keep living in a place you don't even own? Is it because your estate is gone? Your summer house foreclosed in 2019. Your private memberships lapsed. And your son? I smiled. Your son's been working part-time for Mason's startup that hasn't made $1 in 3 years. You may not realize it yet, but you need this place more than I need your rent. Celeste looked like I'd slapped her. Gregory's jaw clenched. You've done your research. No, I said, standing. I've done my healing. And now I do business. Amanda slid the updated lease agreement across the table. Effective February 1st. If you'd like to stay. Gregory stared at the papers like they were poison. Celeste tried one last time. Catherine, you're better than this. I smiled. I am. Then I turned, walked out, and never looked back. I thought the revenge ended when I became their landlord. But then their son came back, and I realized I wasn't finished yet. It had been nearly 3 years since Daniel and I had spoken. 3 years since he slid that ring across the table like it was a receipt he was returning, not a promise he was breaking. 3 years since I walked away and built a life on the ashes he and his family left behind. I thought I was done with all of them. Until I saw his name again, in the most unexpected place. I was walking through one of my newer buildings, a sleek, co-working and residential hybrid I developed downtown, when Amanda handed me a folder with a familiar frown. You're going to want to see this, she said. I flipped it open. Rental application, Unit 5C. Name, Daniel Ellis. Employment, freelance designer. References, Mason Turner. I stared at the paper like it was a ghost. What is this? I asked slowly. He applied last night. No idea he realized this is your building. He probably didn't. But here's the twist, Amanda said, her voice hardening. He doesn't qualify. I blinked. What? He's trying to rent with no steady income, a low credit score, and one bounce deposit in the last year. He doesn't have the first month's rent saved. He's basically crashing through life. Looks like Celeste and Gregory finally stopped bailing him out. I sat down hard in the nearest chair. Daniel. The boy who once told me he didn't need money to feel rich. The boy who said he wanted to build something real. He built nothing. I spent that night walking the city, lost in thought. My buildings towered around me like monuments to my pain, but also my victory. And now Daniel was back. Broke. Needing a home. Needing me. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I sent Amanda a note. Call him. Approve the application. But tell him the landlord wants to meet him personally before move-in. She texted back one word. Savage. He walked in late. Same crooked smile. Same casual arrogance. Same brown hair, a little longer now, and eyes that once felt like home. He didn't recognize me right away. Maybe the blazer threw him off, or the building, or the confidence. But when he did, his jaw slackened. Kate? I folded my arms. Catherine. He blinked. You? You own this place? I nodded. Silence stretched like a wire between us. He laughed nervously. Wow, I guess. You really did what you said you would. No, I replied. I did more. He looked around. This is incredible. Honestly, congratulations. I heard some things through the grapevine, but I didn't know you'd. What happened to your trust fund? I cut in. He hesitated. It's complicated. I tilted my head. Let me guess, your parents ran out of favors? Stopped wiring monthly allowances? Mason's company didn't become the next Google? His smile faded. I stepped forward. You left me. You chose them. You let them humiliate me and said nothing. And now you want me to give you a home? He looked like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. Because he couldn't. I made mistakes, he admitted. But I never stopped. Don't, I snapped. Don't you dare try to rewrite history. You loved convenience. You loved comfort. You never loved me. He swallowed hard. I'm not here to beg. No, I said, pulling out a folder. You're here because you need a place to live. And I'm here because I need closure. I handed him the lease. He stared at it. I'm approving your application, not because I forgive you, but because I want you to live here. Every single day. I want you to walk through a building I designed, under a roof I own, and know, you could have had this with me. But you chose pearls and pedigree instead of grit and love. He flinched. I leaned in. And one more thing, I said. What? The rent? I smiled. It just went up. He looked stunned. You're kidding. No, I said, walking to the door. But you're free to decline. Of course. I left him standing there, a ghost in my past, a tenant in my future. 2 weeks later, I walked through the Ellis building again. Celeste and Gregory were quiet now, always prompt with rent, always civil, never smiling. They knew. Everyone knew. The Ellis name no longer opened doors. Mine did. One afternoon, I passed Celeste in the hallway. Her eyes met mine. She opened her mouth. I braced myself. But all she said was, "The windows leak in winter." I nodded. "I'll have it fixed." And I meant it. Because that's the thing. Revenge didn't mean stooping to their level. It meant rising above it. Owning it. And charging them monthly for it.